This weekend, I will miss my wife's birthday and I will miss the free day on the Labor Day. I have a mega tolerating wife.
It's quality over quantity time.
When I'm home, I'm home.
Executives and leaders, the more successful they get, you get more work. How do you sort of balance that?
So for me, mainly,
Jakub Vanek, Chief Operating Officer over at Genpact Americas. He's moved actually 6 times across 4 countries while scaling teams of thousands across a $5 billion organization. Of all these moves, which was the hardest and why?
probably the hardest one was the first one. We were seeing each other only during the weekends. This is how we started our marriage. Don't be attached to physical things. If you ask me tomorrow to move just with a carry-on suitcase, I can do that as long as I have my family with me.
It's not just about the paycheck. It's about literally what is the lifestyle.
I don't even know how much we have on the bank account today because it doesn't really matter for me so much.
What do you hope things will look like for your family into the future?
I can tell you very openly, but with small caveat.
Okay.
Probably challenge you back.
Jakub, welcome to Lead the Team, sir.
Ben, thanks a lot for having me. Let's enjoy that.
Yeah, been looking forward to this one, my friend. So let's kick this off. Of all these moves, which was the hardest and why?
Probably the hardest one was the first one, as a lot of other things in life. And the reason is that despite the distance was pretty short, 2-3 hours highway driving, it was the first time when I basically had to give away the Tuesday's soccer game with the friends, meeting the parents during the Thursday and so on, because simply it was not available. And secondly, it was during the time where also my wife started pretty good career in the banking house, Austrian banking house as a private banker. She didn't want to let go for obvious reasons. So we were seeing each other only during the weekends because it's a long time ago, so Monday, Friday office. However, unexpected benefit of that one is this is how we started our marriage, which means nowadays, if I have to travel a lot during the week, there is no surprise, there is no argumentation, there is no conversation, because basically this is how we started long time ago and we are very well used to that.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Take us back to that first conversation. You're like, look, I know we're married, but part of this deal is I'm going to be traveling all the time. Or do you have this conversation before you got in the relationship? Or like, when did this take place? Because I think a lot of leaders face this, right? You're having this travel schedule and trying to have a great family life too. So when did you have it and how'd that conversation go?
So first of all, it all probably goes to the fact that I have a mega tolerating wife. So
Okay.
without that, nothing would be possible. Second part is, I don't think that we really thought of that thoroughly back then when I accepted the opportunity. So it was more like, okay, let's try, let's go, and let's figure it out without not much knowing that it's going to be 1 year, 1 month, 10 years, and so on. And then obviously the situation changed significantly. Then we had the first baby, which obviously gave my wife an opportunity to move towards the location where I was working. Then we had a second baby a few years later, right? So again, back in the day, there was not a thorough conversation. I was 27. I didn't really thought that much. And that's why it was rather sounds exciting. Let's go and let's see.
Wow. All right. So you kind of evolved into it gradually and kids on the way. So now as a global leader, on the road, what do you do to sort of maintain that family life with kids? And kids grow up fast and it's easy to miss, key parts when you're not there. So what do you do to sort of manage all that and stay in touch and
there are
how far burn
some common practices. I don't know, evening catch-ups and talking and trying to do the video whenever you are. A family WhatsApp group, family tracking, so we know where are we and so on. However, what probably works best for me in the last, let's call it post-COVID days when the travel came back, is really dedicating the weekends and the days when I'm at home to the family only, which means I don't go out for the football game on Saturday night. I don't go out for 6 hours golf course on Sunday morning. Basically, when I'm home, I'm home. And when I'm home, I'm with my kids. Because you're right, my daughter is now 10 years. She was born when we moved together to second country as a family. My son is now 7 years. He was born when we moved to the third country, Poland back in the day. So time flies super fast. And I'm assuming that it's like 2, 3 years down the line, the kids will be a little bit distant from the parents, right? So now is the time to create the bonding.
That, that's so true. I've got a 14-year-old and like they get 12, 13, 14, and they start to kind of pull away and try to form their own identity more. In those
Yeah.
early days, there's like a real closeness that can happen. And thinking about what you're saying, Jakub, really resonates with me because Simon Sinek, who's a very widely known author, talks about, and this is, and I'm going to bring this back to your point. He reported some in one of his books, research on children who become bullies in school. And it turns out one of the common factors is like their connectivity with parents. If they have more connectivity and a tighter relationship, they tend not to be in that bullying category. But the question is, and what I thought was really interesting in addition to that was it's the quality of time, not the quantity of time. So, in other words, if you're there on the weekends and you're fully present with your kids versus, hey, I'm here all week, but I'm being distracted and I'm never fully present with my kids. I'm distracted with meetings and all these other things. That's less important than having less time, but more present and more meaningful time. How does that research match up with your experience?
I wouldn't call it my experience. I would rather call it my life. So look,
Okay.
the whole environment which we have at home, it's somehow enabling that nicely because of two factors. The first one, we don't have TV. I don't like TV. I've
No
never
TV.
Yeah, we never had a
All right.
Netflix, Disney Plus, well, you can call whatever you want. Yeah, sometimes people can say I'm tired and I'm not allowing my family to enjoy, but that's somehow I try to define our home, which is really being together. And the second part is both my kids are very active in sports, which
Uh-huh.
means the weekends are full of their tournaments. And
Mm.
when they are full of their tournaments, we are there. And we are there combination of driver, feeder, but as well as a cheerleader of the kids. So you are just for them, right? You are sitting there watching, they are sometimes winning, sometimes losing, and so on. But you spend those days together on those events, which is the best part. So you are right, being present. And you
Yeah.
can't take significant, serious meetings out of the tennis court of my daughter's tournament, right? No, you can't. So it's the environment defined helping me to really be present for my kids and my wife during the
Yeah.
weekends.
Really like that. It's a great message for leaders because you're not going to be a CEO and not have a demanding life, usually, right? You're CEO and it's going to be busy. You're COO, you're president, you're like an executive in these organizations. You're going to have a demanding work life that's going to require travel, move, being doing things, but learning how to be fully present, not just with your family, dare I say, with your employees and teams too, that can make all the difference when you don't have unlimited time to spend with them. And I love the fact that you've eliminated TV and you're kind of create the environment for presence to take place. Uh, what do you do, or how do you approach when they're like, Jakub, we need you to work this weekend. There's a big meeting coming up. How do you how do you sort of balance that? Being a CEO of a major global company, when you have weekend activities as an executive.
So let's take the real example of tomorrow. Tomorrow is a Saturday, and we are recording it ahead of the Labor's Day, which is usually a free day.
Mhm.
And on the top of it, on Sunday, my wife has a birthday. And guess what? I have to fly tomorrow to meet my boss and the global leaders to San Francisco, where I will gonna spend 4 days. So I will miss this weekend, I will miss my wife's birthday, and I will miss the free day on the Labor Day. However,
Danger, danger.
it's not a very healthy cocktail, to be very frank and honest. However, last weekend I was fully there, and the weekend before I was fully there, and the weekend after I will be fully there. So I
Okay.
didn't receive any pushback, any comments, anything like that. Because again, when you can and you do, then basically the tolerating family will not challenge you when you are not available. And because as you said, it's a part of the job. You want it or you don't want it. That's then your choice.
Yeah. I love that. Like the word that comes to me is it sounds like you're very proactive with your lifestyle. Like you're not just living weekend to weekend. You're like taking a global look at your schedule and the needs of the business. And like as you're an executive for the business and you're planning and you're scheduling and working it, you're thinking about your family too, right? How do we integrate these together? And those 3 weekends surrounding your wife's weekend, you'll be fully present and be able to celebrate and have those conversations. I mean,
By the way, not always appreciated by my family. The fact that I tell them at 9 we will do this, and at 10 we will move there, and at 11 we will be by this location and we will do this. But yes, it's very scheduled. And again, coming back to the sports of my kids, because my daughter, she plays
yeah,
tennis tournaments each and every weekend, which
I
means you
love
need
that.
to plan in advance where to book it, where to go, and
Oh
so on. At
man,
the same
I hear
time,
you. My
my son,
daughter's a tennis player at 14, and we have the
yeah,
same thing. And those weekends are interesting because you may have rain delays, things can change on the schedule. You don't know always the times when you're going to play. There's a lot of waiting around, and it's a
correct, and it's a
really
2 days. It's a 2 days event usually, sometimes even more than that, right? So you have to plan for it.
yeah.
And at the same time, my son plays soccer, and guess what? Every Saturday there is a match or tournament. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
structured, but it doesn't take away the fun which you can have in the afternoon or evening, where we again come together and
Yeah.
spend the time only together.
Yeah, a couple things I'm taking away from that, Jakub, is number one, you talk about being present and creating the environment for being present at home with your family. It's quality over quantity time, and certainly taking and being a proactive sort of global look at your schedule and finding those interactive or those intersections of where things can come together in a positive way. Now, you're thinking about moving so many times. The other element of this is you've effectively had to uproot your life, from multiple communities. And when you do that, what's a leadership lesson that you think you could have only learned by having going through that experience multiple times?
So for me, mainly, it's probably don't be attached to things, meaning the
Hmm.
physical things. So whenever we moved, we never moved with furniture. We didn't ship the books. I mean, you just take some of the clothes and really required items like my daughter's tennis racket or my son's soccer ball, and very
Hmm.
lightly move from one place to another. Don't. If you ask me tomorrow to move just with a carry-on suitcase, I can do that as long as I have my family with me. Why? Because in
Hmm.
my view, the things don't matter. And the leadership probably twist to that is, especially in the some sort of executive positions, don't be attached to those things either. Meaning it's about how we still stayed connected with the family, or how we created the new relationship in those places, how we understood the environment. The same, sooner or later, this executive position will stop. It can happen tomorrow if there is a big
Good reminder.
issue. It might be in 10 years where, I don't know, something might happen. Don't be attached to your miles status or your personal assistant, because this will go away sooner or later. Just keep those relationship which you built in the new places, keep the network, keep some sort of connection to the experience. Things will disappear, or they will be basically obsolete or depreciated. That's probably the lesson, because we left so many apartments, so many houses, and I never looked back. As long as you have
Wow.
your family picture, nowadays even digital, so it's not a problem.
And in being that state of mind and letting that show up in your life, what have the benefits been to you personally and professionally?
I can give you the example of the recent move, because it's like 8 months when I'm picking up this whole
Where,
US journey and being the CEO for Americas, right? Which again,
where
it's
did you move to and from for that one in
from Europe.
specific?
So
Okay.
from Poland, moving to Dallas. That's a big
Wow.
move.
That's a big move. Yeah.
Everything is different, right? The environment is different and so on. I can tell you it was such an amazing experience figuring out with the family how to navigate in this environment, arranging the apartment completely fresh, what we need today, not what has been designed. And the same thing
Mm.
is here in the work conditions. Try to leave sort of your baggage in Europe and try to come with a fresh mind. Don't come with your assumptions. For example, Genpact has 20 locations across Americas. We have a business from Canada to Brazil, right?
Wow.
Which
Yeah.
means There is a huge cultural element of things working differently in our location in Costa Rica versus our location in Bogota versus our location in Montreal versus our New York office with the CEO. Don't try to come with assumptions, probably this is what I should apply. No. It's about understanding first the environment, especially the cultural piece, even in the era of AI and technology and digital. Try to understand the culture and then make your judgments. So leave sort of the baggage behind.
I love that so much. And I don't want to be totally hyperbolic about it, but I feel like this is why business can help facilitate world peace because you're not a you're not attached to cultures, you're not attached to the outline of countries, right? You're thinking globally and you're not attached to how you did things in one culture versus the other, and you seem like a very open leader no matter where you are in the world.
Because it's also an amazing experience to find something new. However, at the same time, and let me a little bit probably challenge you back. When I started my career, whatever, 20 years ago, majority of the corporate leaders used to have international experience, spending few days in Asia, spending few years in Latin America or Europe or Middle East and so on, right? When you look at the corporate behemoths of General Electric, the Coca-Cola,
Absolutely.
it was always like that. And now when you look nowadays, at especially on those tech profiles, very often you find very similar pattern of being born in US, studying in whatever, Ivy Leagues and staying in Silicon Valley. Never really spending 3 years in Asia or 5 years in Middle East, and still they are super successful. So there's also probably something which is changing. Before, big corporations used to really align to the local market, especially in the B2C space, to the customers. How do they behave? What kind of products or marketing they want? Nowadays, with the tech platforms, we are becoming really global citizens. And a lot of those things are very similar, irrespective of if you are connecting to your Meta from North America
Okay.
or you're connecting from France.
Interesting. Yeah, the world has changed and technology's been a huge facilitator in that.
Yeah.
And you guys at Genpact, I mean, that's what you do, right? Like
That's exactly what we do
you're
because we
pouring
are
it.
advanced tech solutions, which exactly is, it needs to work for the whole world. Of course, there are regulatory nuances, there are certain nuances in each and every market, but it's all about the scale and something which the technology is unlocking big time.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt that living with your family and kind of bringing it back to that. What do you like? What are your hopes and dreams for this experience for your family? Because it sounded like to me, like this is the way I'm interpreting your story, Jakub. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. Like initially you moved because you had to, right? For your executive sort of trajectory. Now you're moving, it sounds like you need to, but you're probably in a place in your career where you're choosing to do this, right? You probably could stay in one country and work there, but you're choosing to move your family. And what are your hopes and dreams for how all these moves, like how is this going to shape your family into the future? So when your kids are in their 30s, how do you, and say one day you're rolling into retirement, what do you hope things will look like having had this incredible international experience?
I mean, ultimately, you want your kids to do well in life. I don't know if it's going to be through sport, through work, through volunteering. You just want them to be happy and do well. Now,
Hmm.
the latest move, moving into US, Dallas in particular, I was looking almost primary from the family perspective when deciding if to accept or not, because it gives my kids huge opportunity of the multicultural
Hmm.
environment, very large scale. I mean, I'm sitting in Texas. Everything is large here, right? By definition.
Everything
Great
is bigger in
schools,
Texas, yes.
great schools, great sport environment, because think about
Okay.
Texas or Dallas, like really a huge foundation for the sport, fast growing, fast developing. Now, how is it going to shape my kids? I don't know. They will learn perfect English for their life. They will have probably some international friends for their life. I hope so. My tennis academies here are good. And by the way, I'm coming from Czech Republic, where women and tennis is very strong foundation.
Yeah.
Still, I found
Yep.
it here slightly better, which is good. I'm coming from the environment of Europe, where soccer, football in our case, is very strong. And still in Dallas, I found very good foundation and so on. So it also will develop them. So coming back to your question, I was considering those small elements in particular lives of my kids and my wife as a great opportunity for experiencing something else because the world is just simply so beautiful. If you travel around the world like I was privileged to do in the last 15 years because of working in Genpact, the food experience in India, the view in Cape Town, the quality of the meat in Latin America and so on, sitting in the Paris coffee place after the long day in the office. That's exactly what is the life about, at least
Oh,
for me.
yeah.
Again, not being attached to the things, rather to the experience.
Yeah. One of the big takeaways for me on that is you've obviously thought very deeply about the life that you want for yourself and for your kids and family. And it's not just about the paycheck. It's about literally what is the lifestyle? How do we want to be when we wake up? Like, where do we want to be? Am I good doing meetings in business and in coffee houses across the world if I don't have an office because I'm bouncing around? What about the sports and everything? And I think people just so rarely live their life with that deep level of insight in terms of what they want. Because once you know what you want, you can go about designing it proactively. And I love this move from Poland to Dallas because you've thought about it so much. Do you, and that level of deep thinking, are you a journaler? Do you have an executive coach? Or are you just sit and thought on the mountainside? Like what are you, what's your approach to that deep thinking in life and reflecting?
It's almost like benefiting from the crazy travel agenda. Because whenever I sit at the airport or you are in the plane and you can't fall asleep and so on, that's where I think about it. That's
Okay.
basically when I open the book or I just simply look into nowhere and think. So of course, we all have some networks, some friends, some people we trust, some, I would say, private advisors in your life, but it's usually coming in those moments of sitting idle at the airport and thinking what to do. So coming back to your point, it's not about a paycheck, at least not for me. Of course, it's important. It's important for your life, especially you want to provide to your family and your kids and opportunities and so on. But coming back to when I started, my wife used to work in the bank before the moving here. What
Mhm.
does it mean? She's the one taking care of the finances of the family, not me. I don't even know how much we have on the bank account today because it doesn't really matter for me so much. It's her job,
It's
and
been delegated to the
yeah,
banker in the family.
yeah, I mean, she's better to do that, so let her do that. And I have full trust in her, so why not?
You're like, I'm thinking, I got to keep in mind the bottom line of this multiple billion dollar organization. Can you make sure the home bank account is is tidy? You know,
I know very well my financials, my business P&L, the revenue upside, the gap which we have on the gross
yes,
margin. What is the ROI of the investment which we are deciding right now in certain Latin America countries? That I know for the last decimal number. The home
yeah.
financials, not really.
Well, it goes back to think about building a great team at work and at home, and having a great, alignment of responsibilities to what people want to do, what they're best at. And so congrats on figuring that out on the home front too. Bringing it back to the sense of clarity, I think executives and leaders, the more successful they get, you don't get less work, you get more work. Like, what's the great job? What's the reward, Jakub, for doing a great job? More of that work, right? And the busier you get, I think it's the less time for reflection people often make because they get caught up in the whirlwind of life. And I love this idea of, hey, executives, you might be listening to this at the airport right now and take a note out of his playbook. Use some time for self reflection, turn the phone off or at least flip it over for 15, 20 minutes and think about what you really want and then start to proactively design that. And I think, Jakub, one of the things that you've imparted to me today is, hey, just remember to be proactive in the design of your life. and identifying success.
Absolutely, but with small caveat. I would not recommend to look 10 years ahead. In the nowadays world, looking 10 years ahead, I mean, 20 things will change probably by that time, right? Look at 5 years ago and what all changed since then. It can be pandemic, it can be something on geopolitics, it can be something on the technology piece, it can whatever it is. So 1, 2 years, 3, 4 years probably, but I would walk away a little bit from that old-fashioned. In 15 years, I want to become this in that company. That company might not even exist in 15 years.
Like you said, don't attach yourself to things.
Yeah,
And that thing might be your career. It might need to change or your leadership role. And I think you have a good reminder too that all leadership roles and titles are all temporary ultimately. Someone will be after you, someone else will be COO, right? You are filling that role and thinking about the lives that we want to lead and how we want to shape it, makes a big impact and for our future. How has your leadership changed over the years in terms of adapting it to how AI is becoming more and more pervasive in our lives? We didn't really get into this topic yet. I know you're passionate about talking about it, so wanted to maybe wind up here.
I look at AI as a huge enabler, like huge enabler or fast outcomes, business outcomes, many outcomes. Of course, it starts with a lot of prerequisites. I mean, there is no artificial intelligence if the process is not really intelligent itself, right? You can't try to fix something through AI. It's enabler for much better things. I look at it from the two perspectives. The first one, it's very fast development. Just let's
Yep.
look back. What was it? End of November 2022, when the ChatGPT basically was released to the public, and we all tried to play with that and discuss during the dinner time of the Christmas Eve, right? In 2022. First touch, first experience, which now helps a lot with onboarding and change management because many of us tried it, seen it. We try to generate some content through Gen AI. We try to generate some answers. We are using it in our daily lives for some answering certain questions and so on, helping us write certain articles and blah, blah, blah. And look at what is it today, the whole journey and agentic solutions, self-driven agents, self-correcting themselves, doing the job properly 24/7 with the predictable outcomes. And the whole self-learning element is there. The whole machine learning is there. Within the 3 years, it changed. And that's why, coming back to the leadership, I don't know how it's going to look like in 2 years down the line. I can tell you very openly. It's how you navigate your organization for that significant change.
Hmm.
When you think about the Genpact and us, we've been always known in the industry for the process domain, really understanding the industry domain, the process domain. We celebrated this year 20 years anniversary. So during those 20 years, it was millions of
Hmm.
transactions processed in finance, in supply chain, insurance
Yep.
claims, you name it. However, based on that whole process, you can now try to build the AI enabler.
Yep.
And it's fascinating to see the reaction of the people. It's fascinating to see all the sorts of reactions of the people coming back to the change management of onboarding, but also coming to upskilling. I
Hmm.
mean, or at least I don't believe that you should hire all the capabilities from the market for your strategic shift of the company. You can build it because nowadays building
Hmm.
hard skills, it's very easy. I mean, it's cheap even, right? I mean, nowadays you can learn programming from the YouTube videos if you want.
Yeah.
So rather
Incredible.
invest in the organization, in the mass employment base for the readiness for the future
Yep.
instead of trying to acquire. You need to acquire certain capabilities, and it's absolutely okay. But acquisition will not move your company shift
Yep.
because with regards to the culture, the legacy, and the process domain which we have.
It's so important for leaders to recognize that. What doesn't need to change is a good, solid culture. And you hire, if you start tossing that out the window, you really commoditize your entire organization. And AI and the availability of information are going to continue to grind on that. So don't lose that. And I think that's such a great piece to
And
think about.
probably I would also add, look, my position is operations. There is an O for a reason. I'm responsible for operations, for the machine to work properly. I can't disrupt that operations in the navigating of the shift of AI. AI is here to enable it to make it better, drive the outcomes, unpredictable outcomes, sometimes predictable outcomes, but the core needs to stay. We can't jeopardize the business of our Fortune 500 customers just because we are experimenting. So again, you need to acquire certain capabilities, but it's more about how you navigate the company in this whole advanced technology solution shift.
Wow. Fun. Great message today, Jacob. Jakub. Spelled Jacobs. I'm still working on my check. You know what? I'll really tell you though, I really appreciate you, and the listeners really appreciate you sharing, kind of opening your personal playbook early on in the call or our interview, because you're really, like, every leader that's having success is facing this, with our friends, with our lifestyle, and that's the foundation. And I really think there's so many good nuggets in there. And then thanks for your ideas around AI and how we as leaders need to be thinking about how it's positioned properly in the organization and holding on to the things that work and keep the lights on and have success. Jakub, thank you, my friend. It's a fun one today.
It was a pleasure, Ben. Have a good rest of the day.